In the quiet neighborhood of Maple Grove, where houses stood shoulder to shoulder like old friends, two characters were about to clash. Karen was a longtime member of the Homeowners Association, HOA, and took her role very seriously. With her perfectly manicured lawn and strict adherence to rules, she believed she was protecting the community's charm. She had a reputation for being a stickler for design uniformity, always quick to call out any deviation from the established style. On the other hand, there was Jake, a new homeowner with a creative spirit. He had recently moved into one of the older homes, charmed by its character and history. Unlike Karen, he had grand ideas for his property. After working from home for years, he dreamed of building a detached office in his backyard, a cozy space where he could be productive without distractions. Jake envisioned bright colors and quirky decorations that would reflect his personality and inspire his work. One sunny afternoon, Jake excitedly shared his plans with neighbors during a small gathering. However, when Karen caught wind of Jake's intentions, she felt compelled to step in. She approached him with an air of authority, ready to remind him of the HOA's rules regarding design uniformity. Little did she know that her rigid enforcement would spark a series of events that would change everything in Maple Grove. As tensions began to rise, Jake's determination grew stronger. He was ready to fight for his vision. As the sun shone brightly on Maple Grove, Jake was filled with excitement about his new project. He had already gathered materials and sketches for his detached office when he noticed a familiar figure approaching him, Karen. Her expression was serious, and Jake felt a twinge of apprehension. He had heard stories about her strict enforcement of HOA rules, but he never expected her to confront him so soon. "Jake," she began, her voice tinged with authority, "I need to talk to you about your plans." She stood tall, arms crossed, ready to deliver the news she believed was her duty. "Your office is going to violate the HOA's rule of design uniformity. We can't allow anything that disrupts the overall aesthetic of our neighborhood." Jake's heart sank. He had envisioned a bright and inviting workspace filled with inspiration, but Karen's words felt like a heavy weight. "But Karen," he protested gently, "this could enhance my property and bring some color to the street." Karen shook her head firmly, her resolve unyielding. "It doesn't matter how you see it, the HOA has guidelines for a reason. If you go ahead with this, I'll have to report it. We can't have houses looking like a patchwork quilt." As she walked away, Jake felt a mix of frustration and determination. He realized that this was not just about building an office, it was about standing up for his vision against an unyielding authority. Little did he know that a deeper history lay beneath the surface of those HOA rules, waiting for him to uncover it. After his confrontation with Karen, Jake felt a spark of determination igniting within him. No longer willing to accept her words as final, he decided to dive into the rules and history of the HOA. Armed with a laptop and a cup of coffee, he began researching late into the night. The soft glow of his screen illuminated stacks of papers and documents as he sought to uncover any loopholes that could support his dreams. Jake combed through old records and neighborhood newsletters, learning about the origins of the HOA and its restrictive rules. He discovered that the organization had been formed years after many homes were already built in Maple Grove. Curiosity piqued, he dug deeper into city archives, hoping to find something that could help him push back against Karen's authority. As morning light streamed through his window, Jake stumbled upon a surprising find, an old zoning law from 1923 that included a grandfather clause allowing certain properties built before the formation of the HOA to maintain their original characteristics without restriction. His heart raced as he realized this could mean his plans for the colorful office were protected. With hope bubbling up inside him, Jake felt invigorated by this new knowledge. He quickly sketched out plans for his office and chose vibrant colors that reflected his personality. Excitedly, he imagined how it would stand proudly in his backyard, a testament to creativity and freedom against conformity. This was more than just a project now, it was a fight for his right to express himself in a community that seemed so rigid. With his heart racing and a newfound sense of purpose, Jake dove deeper into the city's records. The old, dusty files held a wealth of information, and he felt like an explorer uncovering hidden treasures. As he flipped through the faded pages of documents, he stumbled upon a detailed account of the zoning laws that had shaped Maple Grove. His fingers paused on a particular clause that piqued his interest, the grandfather clause from 1923. It stated that properties built before the HOA's establishment were allowed to retain their original features without restrictions imposed by the association. This was the key Jake had been searching for. He couldn't believe his luck. This legal protection meant he could go ahead with his plans for the colorful office without fear of retribution from Karen or the HOA. Feeling a mix of exhilaration and relief, Jake took a moment to absorb the significance of his discovery. The clause not only validated his vision but also empowered him to express himself freely in a neighborhood that had felt so stifling. Armed with this knowledge, he began to sketch out detailed plans for the office, envisioning a bright workspace adorned with retro colors and unique designs that would stand out proudly against the backdrop of the other houses. Fueled by creativity and a determination to assert his rights, Jake knew that he was ready to take a stand. This project was no longer just about building an office, it became a symbol of his fight against conformity and an affirmation of individuality in Maple Grove. With the grandfather clause backing him up, Jake felt a renewed sense of confidence as he plunged into the preparations for his detached office. He gathered his sketches and began refining his designs, each line and curve reflecting his vibrant personality. The more he worked on it, the clearer his vision became. He decided that this was not just an office, it was a statement, a bold declaration of who he was in a neighborhood that often felt bland and uniform. Choosing colors became an exhilarating task. Jake flipped through paint swatches, his imagination running wild as he envisioned bright oranges, electric blues, and sunny yellows splashing across the walls of his new space. Each color brought with it a rush of creativity, and he could already picture how the retro design would stand out against the typically muted tones of Maple Grove homes. He wanted to evoke a sense of joy and inspiration every time he stepped into that office. As Jake prepared for construction, he ordered materials that matched his vibrant vision. Friends from the neighborhood offered to help, eager to witness the transformation unfold. With every nail and beam, excitement bubbled within him. This project was not merely about creating a workspace, it was about embracing individuality and defying conformity. Jake knew there would be naysayers, especially Karen, but with every brushstroke of color he planned, he felt more empowered. This was his chance to show that creativity could thrive even in a place where rules sought to stifle it. The journey had just begun, and he was ready to make his mark on Maple Grove. As Jake's colorful detached office began to take shape, the atmosphere in Maple Grove shifted. News of his bold project spread quickly through the neighborhood, and soon, the community was buzzing with mixed reactions. Some neighbors rallied behind Jake, thrilled to see a splash of creativity and individuality breaking the uniformity that had long defined their streets. They admired his courage to stand up against the restrictive HOA rules and saw his office as a symbol of change in their community. However, not everyone shared this enthusiasm. Karen and her supporters voiced strong opposition, calling Jake's plans an eyesore that threatened the aesthetic harmony of their neighborhood. They feared that if one person could paint their house bright colors and build unconventional structures, it might open the floodgates for chaos. Meetings among the HOA members grew tense, with passionate discussions about design uniformity and community values dominating the agenda. As construction progressed, so did the tension. Neighbors who once exchanged friendly waves found themselves divided, with some avoiding Jake altogether. Meanwhile, others took to social media to express their support, sharing photos of the evolving workspace and cheering him on as he added each new vibrant detail. Jake felt empowered by the support but also disheartened by the rift forming among neighbors. He hoped for a day when they could come together again, appreciating diversity in their community rather than fearing it. As he worked on his office, he knew this project was more than just a building. It was a catalyst for change that could reshape how Maple Grove viewed creativity and individuality. As the sun rose on the first day of construction, Jake felt a rush of excitement. He stood in his backyard, surrounded by tools and materials, ready to bring his vision to life. With the support of some enthusiastic neighbors, he had organized a small crew to help with the project. Laughter and chatter filled the air as they gathered to begin building the colorful office that would soon stand as a beacon of creativity in Maple Grove. Jake took pride in every detail, from the unique design to the vibrant colors that would adorn the walls. As he measured and sawed, he felt a sense of liberation. Each cut and nail was an act of defiance against Karen's rigid rules. He envisioned how the retro colors would pop against the green grass and blue sky, transforming his backyard into a lively workspace. Throughout the day, neighbors passed by, some cheering him on while others cast disapproving glances. Jake couldn't help but smile. He was finally taking a stand for what he believed in. This wasn't just construction, it was a celebration of individuality that he hoped would inspire others in the community. As they raised the framework and began to see the office taking shape, Jake felt an overwhelming sense of accomplishment. It became clear that this project was more than just a building, it was a testament to creativity and freedom. With each passing moment, he grew more confident in his decision to challenge the status quo, knowing that he was paving the way for a new kind of neighborhood spirit in Maple Grove. As construction of Jake's office progressed, frustration simmered within Karen. She felt her authority slipping away and knew she had to act quickly. Determined to halt Jake's project, she called for an emergency meeting of the HOA board. Armed with her concerns about design uniformity, she marched into the room, ready to rally support against what she viewed as a blatant disregard for their community's values. However, as Karen presented her case, she was taken aback by the unexpected reactions from board members. Rather than the unanimous support she had anticipated, some members began to voice their admiration for Jake's creativity. A few even admitted they appreciated the idea of a colorful office breaking the monotony in Maple Grove. "Maybe it's time we allow a little individuality," one member suggested, surprising Karen with their shift in perspective. Karen's frustration deepened as she tried to argue that allowing Jake's project would set a dangerous precedent. But her words fell on ears that were increasingly sympathetic to Jake's vision. The more she insisted on enforcing the rules, the more resistance she faced. Board members who once backed her began to question the strictness of their guidelines, wondering if they had stifled creativity for too long. Feeling isolated, Karen realized that her attempts to control the situation were backfiring. As support for Jake grew among neighbors and HOA members alike, she found herself losing not only the battle against Jake but also her influence within the community. It became clear that Maple Grove was evolving, and she needed to rethink her approach before it was too late. The day had finally arrived for Jake to unveil his colorful detached office to the neighborhood. As he stepped back to admire his handiwork, a wave of pride washed over him. The office stood boldly in his backyard, painted in bright retro colors that contrasted beautifully with the more traditional houses surrounding it. It was not just a workspace, it was a testament to creativity and individuality that he hoped would inspire others. Inviting neighbors over for the grand reveal, Jake could hardly contain his excitement. Word had spread throughout Maple Grove, and many residents were eager to see what he had created. As they gathered in his backyard, their faces lit up with curiosity and enthusiasm. Some even exclaimed in delight at the vibrant colors and unique design that Jake had brought to life. Jake took them on a small tour of the office, showcasing its cozy interior and the thoughtful touches he had added. Neighbors laughed and chatted as they explored the space, many expressing admiration for his courage to stand out. "This is exactly what our neighborhood needs," one neighbor shouted, raising their glass in a toast to Jake's creativity. While a few dissenters still held reservations about the project's boldness, the overwhelming sentiment was one of appreciation and support. For the first time, Jake felt a sense of belonging within Maple Grove, a community willing to embrace change. As they celebrated together, he realized that this colorful office represented not just his personal journey, but also a shift toward acceptance and diversity in their once conventional neighborhood. After the grand reveal of Jake's colorful office, Karen was not ready to concede defeat. Fueled by frustration and a lingering sense of authority, she decided to take formal action through the HOA. Convincing herself that the colorful office needed to be dismantled, she rallied a few loyal members who still shared her concerns about design uniformity. They organized a meeting to discuss taking legal steps against Jake, hoping to undermine his newfound success. On the day of the meeting, the atmosphere was tense. Karen stood before the board, armed with a stack of documents, ready to argue her case. "This construction violates our community's standards," she insisted. "It sets a dangerous precedent that will allow chaos to reign in Maple Grove." But as she spoke, she noticed an unexpected shift among the board members. Many seemed less inclined to take action than before. After hearing Jake's perspective and understanding the implications of the grandfather clause he had discovered, a few members began to voice their support for him. "If the law allows him to build, we have no legal grounds to act," one member stated firmly, echoing sentiments that were growing within the group. Karen's heart sank as more members sided with Jake, reasoning that respecting the clause was essential to maintaining fairness. After a lengthy discussion, the board came to a unanimous decision: they would not pursue any action against Jake. For Karen, it marked not just a loss in the battle for control over design standards but a significant defeat in her grip on the community. Meanwhile, Jake felt a surge of victory, solidifying his place in Maple Grove as a pioneer of creativity and change. In the aftermath of the conflict, both Jake and Karen took time to reflect on their experiences. For Jake, the journey had been empowering. He felt a surge of pride in standing up for his rights and defying the rigid expectations that had previously held him back. The colorful office was more than just a workspace, it became a symbol of his commitment to creativity and self-expression. As he sat in his new office, surrounded by vibrant colors and engaging designs, Jake realized that pursuing what he loved had brought not only joy to his life but also a sense of community among his neighbors. Karen, on the other hand, faced a challenging moment of introspection. Initially convinced that strict adherence to design uniformity was necessary for the neighborhood's harmony, she began to see the value in flexibility and openness to change. Witnessing the support Jake garnered from many residents made her reconsider her approach. Rather than fighting against individuality, she recognized that allowing diversity could enrich their community and foster deeper connections among neighbors. On a sunny afternoon, they crossed paths while out for a walk. Jake smiled and nodded at Karen, who hesitated but then smiled back. In that brief moment, an unspoken understanding passed between them: they both wanted to create a better neighborhood, albeit through different paths. For Jake, it was about embracing creativity, while for Karen, it meant learning to appreciate the beauty in diversity and adaptability. Their experiences had shifted their perspectives and opened doors for new possibilities in Maple Grove. In the wake of Jake's successful unveiling of his colorful office, the atmosphere in Maple Grove transformed. Neighbors who had once been divided began to come together, inspired by the boldness and creativity that Jake had brought to their community. The vibrant colors of his office sparked joy and conversation, as families strolled by to admire the unique design that stood out amidst the more traditional homes. As Jake continued to work in his office, he welcomed neighbors inside for casual gatherings, fostering connections that had previously been overlooked. People shared ideas, stories, and laughter, realizing that embracing individuality could enrich their community rather than disrupt it. The once stifling rules of conformity began to loosen their grip, allowing a newfound spirit of creativity to flourish. Karen, observing this shift from afar, slowly started to appreciate the benefits of diversity in her neighborhood. She found herself engaging in conversations with those who had supported Jake, hearing their perspectives on the importance of creativity and self-expression. It became clear to her that a blend of different styles and ideas could create a vibrant tapestry that would make Maple Grove even more special. The HOA meetings shifted focus too. Discussions now included ways to celebrate individuality while still maintaining a sense of community. By allowing for a broader interpretation of design and personal expression, they began to redefine what it meant to live harmoniously together. Ultimately, Jake's colorful office became a catalyst for change in Maple Grove, inspiring everyone to embrace their uniqueness and come together as a more united community. The lessons learned from this experience would resonate for years to come, reminding residents that creativity and individuality can coexist beautifully within their neighborhood.